Don't touch me. I have self-respect, she said when I tried to hold her hand after bringing home a $5,000 bonus. So I showed her what self-respect actually looks like by serving her divorce papers along with photos of her and her personal trainer. I am Blake 33M, software engineer in Denver making $95K, married to Vanessa, 30F for 4 years. She works part-time as a receptionist at some upscale wellness center downtown. We have been living in a decent 2-bedroom apartment, splitting bills roughly 70-30 since I make more. Everything started going sideways about 8 months ago when Vanessa's friend Tara moved back to town after her divorce. This woman turned hating men into an art form, and suddenly every conversation in my house sounded like a gender studies seminar, where I was the villain. Vanessa started parroting all this stuff about emotional labor and how men don't understand what women go through. The bedroom went cold around the same time, not gradually, just like someone flipped a switch. She would come to bed later and later, always with excuses, always with her phone. When I would try to initiate anything, even just cuddling, I would get this heavy sigh like I was bothering her with something disgusting. Tara was over constantly, and they had sit in the kitchen drinking wine and talking in these low voices that stopped the second I walked in. I started catching snippets about how women deserve better, how they shouldn't have to tolerate men who don't meet their standards. Vanessa started using words I had never heard her say before, making everything I did sound like some kind of oppression. Last Tuesday, I came home excited because I had just closed a major project that came with a $5,000 bonus. Decent money, enough for a vacation, or to finally fix her car like she had been asking about for months. I walked in expecting maybe we could celebrate, go out somewhere nice for once. Vanessa was on the couch with her laptop, didn't even look up when I said hello. I told her about the bonus, thinking this good news might break through whatever wall she had built. She made this dismissive noise and said that is nice without lifting her eyes from the screen. I sat down next to her, keeping respectful distance, and after a few minutes I reached over and put my hand on her leg. Nothing inappropriate, just the kind of simple contact married people share. She jerked away, like I had shocked her with a cattle prod. Don't touch me, she said, voice flat and disgusted. I have self-respect. The words hit different this time. Not because they were louder, but because of how casually she turned a simple gesture from her husband into something dirty and demanding. I asked her what she meant by that, keeping my voice level. She finally looked at me, and the expression on her face was pure contempt. I am not just going to let you paw at me whenever you feel entitled to my body. Some of us have standards. I stared at her for about 10 seconds, processing what she had just said. This woman I had been supporting for 4 years, who lived in my apartment, drove a car I helped pay for, just called me entitled for wanting basic physical affection from my wife. All right, I said. I hear you. I got up, went to my office, and started making calls. Not to friends or family to complain. To my lawyer buddy Trevor, who had been through his own divorce 2 years ago. To the private investigator he had recommended. And to the apartment complex about breaking our lease. Vanessa wanted respect. She was about to learn what it looked like when someone actually had it. Because here is what my lovely wife didn't know. 3 weeks ago, I had installed tracking software on our shared tablet after noticing her weird behavior around technology. Not because I am controlling, but because I am not stupid. The tablet she thought she was using privately had been sending me copies of every message, every photo, every email she would send for almost a month, including the ones with Kieran, her personal trainer from the wellness center where she worked. The ones where they discussed when I would be working late so he could come over. The ones with photos I really didn't need to see. And most importantly, the ones where she told him she was planning to divorce me once she figured out how to maximize what she could take in the settlement. But what made me coldest wasn't the cheating. It was the conversation where she and Tara calculated exactly how to play the victim, how to make me look like the bad guy, and how to use Colorado's alimony laws to keep my money flowing even after she left. That night, after she went to bed early claiming a headache, I printed everything. Every message, every photo, every detail of their scheme. I had it all organized in a folder by morning. Wednesday, I took a personal day and met with Trevor, then with the PI to verify everything we had need for court. Thursday, I went to work like normal, while Vanessa continued her performance of the cold, distant wife, who was just protecting herself from her awful husband. Friday, I came home early and found her in our bedroom video calling with Kieran. Not talking, not planning, actually doing things I will not describe here. She hadn't even bothered to check if I was home first. The disrespect was so complete it was almost impressive. I knocked on the door and walked in. She scrambled to end the call and closed the laptop, face going red, stammering about a work meeting. I told her not to worry about it, that I had been expecting something like this. Then I handed her the folder. "What is this?" she asked, like she didn't already know she was screwed. "Your divorce papers and every text message you have sent to Kieran for the past month, and photos of him leaving our apartment building, and your lovely conversations with Tara about how to take me to the cleaners." I watched her flip through the pages, watched her face go from confused to pale to completely white. She tried to say something about how I was violating her privacy, how this was illegal, how she could explain everything. "Save it for your lawyer," I told her. "Mine says hi." But what happened next showed me exactly how deep this betrayal went, and why I had made the right choice to end this marriage before it destroyed me completely. Update 1. First came the standard denials. She claimed the messages were taken out of context, that Kieran was just a friend, that the photos weren't what they looked like. When that didn't work, she switched to tears and said she had been confused and lonely, that we could work through this if I just gave her a chance. I told her the only thing we were working through was property division and custody arrangements for our shared debt. She would have 1 week to find somewhere else to live. That is when the real Vanessa came out. The crying stopped, like someone had turned off a faucet, and she looked at me with pure, calculating hatred. "You think you are so smart," she said, "but you have no idea how this is going to go. I know things about you that will destroy your reputation. I will tell everyone you were abusive, controlling, that I feared for my safety. Good luck explaining to your boss why your wife had to file a restraining order." I pulled out my phone and showed her the recording app that had been running since I walked in the room. "Please continue," I said. "My attorney loves collecting evidence of attempted fraud." Her face went through about 5 different emotions before settling on rage. She started screaming about how I had ruined everything, how she had never wanted to marry me anyway, how Kieran was twice the man I would ever be, classic stuff. Saturday morning she was gone, took her clothes and left everything else. I changed the locks that afternoon and spent Sunday moving my stuff into a 1-bedroom place I had already secured across town. $1,400 a month, which is reasonable for Denver, and I could afford it easily on my salary alone. Monday, I got a call from Trevor. Apparently Vanessa had consulted with 3 different divorce attorneys, trying to find one who would take her case on contingency. All 3 turned her down once they saw the evidence package we had prepared. No attorney wants to argue for alimony when their client was caught planning to defraud the spouse. But Tuesday is when things got interesting. I got a text from an unknown number asking me to meet at a coffee shop downtown. It was from Kieran's wife. Yes, the personal trainer was married, had been for 6 years, with 2 kids under 5. His wife Elena had found our evidence package somehow, probably through legal discovery, and wanted to meet. Elena was furious, but not at me. She thanked me for documenting everything because she had been suspecting Kieran of cheating but couldn't prove it. She had hired her own pie after getting suspicious about his schedule. But my evidence was far more comprehensive than anything she had gathered. She also told me something that made my blood run cold. Kieran had done this before. Multiple affairs with clients, always targeting married women with money, always following the same pattern of convincing them their husbands weren't good enough. Elena had stayed with him after the last 2 affairs because of the kids. But this time was different. He wasn't just sleeping with your wife, Elena told me. He was coaching her on how to take you apart financially. He has done this with at least 2 other women. It is like a business model for him. Elena showed me messages between Kieran and Vanessa that I hadn't seen, because they had been using a different app. Messages where Kieran gave her specific advice on hiding assets, on how to claim emotional abuse, on timing the divorce filing to maximize her position. This wasn't just an affair. It was a coordinated scheme to destroy my life and finances. That evening, I forwarded everything to Trevor, who immediately filed additional motions based on the new evidence. Conspiracy to commit fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, the works. We weren't just going for a clean divorce anymore. We were going for damages. Thursday, Elena called me with an update. She had filed her own divorce papers and had already spoken with the owner of the wellness center where both Vanessa and Kieran worked. Turns out having affairs with clients in the workplace is grounds for immediate termination and potential legal action from the business. Kieran lost his job that day. So did Vanessa, for creating a hostile work environment and putting the business at legal risk. Both of them fired the same afternoon, security escorting them out separately. Friday, I got a call from Vanessa. First time she had contacted me directly since moving out. She was crying again, begging me to drop the legal action against Kieran because it was ruining his family. She claimed she had been manipulated, that he had taken advantage of her loneliness, that she wanted to make amends. I told her she could make amends by signing the divorce settlement Trevor had prepared, which basically gave her nothing except her personal belongings and half the debt on her car loan. "You cannot leave me with nothing," she said. "I will have nowhere to go. No job, no money. Should have thought about that before you decided to team up with a con artist to rob your husband." That is when she told me something that changed everything I thought I knew about who I had been married to, and it explained why she had been so confident about destroying me, even after getting caught. Update 2: Vanessa's big revelation wasn't what I expected. Instead of some last-ditch manipulation or threat, she broke down completely and told me the truth about why she had been so confident this whole thing would work. This wasn't her first time. Turns out my wife had pulled this exact same scheme with her ex-boyfriend before we met. Different guy. Same pattern. She had moved in with him, convinced him to support her while she found herself. Then met someone else and started planning her exit strategy. Except that time, she would actually succeeded in taking him for about $30,000 in the settlement. She would met Kieran 6 months after we got married, and when he started showing interest, she had told him about her previous success. That is when they had started planning together. Kieran provided the emotional manipulation and affair angle, while Vanessa provided the legal strategy she had learned from experience. Tara wasn't just a divorced friend spreading negative ideas about men. She had been Vanessa's accomplice in the first scheme, and was supposed to be her witness in the second one, ready to testify about my alleged controlling behavior and emotional abuse. The wellness center job wasn't random either. Vanessa had specifically targeted Kieran after researching him online and learning about his history with married clients. She had applied for the receptionist position specifically to get close to him. "I thought you would be easier than David," she said, referring to her ex. "He fought everything. Made me work for every dollar. You were so trusting, so willing to support me. I thought you would just roll over and let me have whatever I wanted." She had underestimated me completely. Worse, she had underestimated Trevor's reputation in the Denver legal community. Word had gotten around about our case, and now every divorce attorney in the city knew about Vanessa's pattern of behavior. No one would represent her anymore. Elena had been busy too. She had connected with David, Vanessa's ex, and learned that he would also documented everything but hadn't pursued criminal charges. This time, with a pattern established and 2 victims coordinating, the district attorney's office was interested in filing fraud charges. Marcus and Vanessa weren't just losing their jobs and marriages anymore. They were looking at potential jail time. That weekend I met with David for coffee. Guy was still angry 3 years later. Said seeing Vanessa finally face consequences was the best news he had had in years. He had kept all his evidence and was happy to share it with the DA's office. "She destroyed 2 years of my life," David told me. "Made me question everything about myself. Made me think I was crazy for being suspicious. I am glad you were smart enough to document everything from the start." Monday morning, Trevor called with an update from the DA's office. They were moving forward with charges against both Kieran and Vanessa: wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and several other felonies. Both of them were looking at potential prison time, not just fines. Vanessa's strategy had completely backfired. Instead of taking me for everything I was worth, she had exposed herself to serious legal consequences and linked up with a career criminal who was now facing his 3rd fraud prosecution. The divorce was finalized Wednesday. Vanessa got nothing except her personal items and a criminal defense attorney she couldn't afford. I got the apartment, the car, and my freedom. No alimony, no property settlement, No ongoing financial obligations. Trevor said it was one of the cleanest divorce outcomes he had ever handled, largely because we had documented everything so thoroughly that Vanessa's legal team couldn't argue any of the basic facts. Thursday, Elena called to let me know Kieran had been arrested at his new apartment. Apparently, he had violated his bail conditions by contacting another married woman from his former client list, trying to start the same scheme again while his case was pending. Some people never learn, Elena said. But at least our kids will not grow up thinking this kind of behavior is normal. Friday, I started getting messages from mutual friends who had heard about the arrests through the local news coverage. Several people apologized for believing Vanessa's version of events when she had tried to turn them against me during the early stages of our separation. But the most satisfying message came from Tara. She wanted to meet and explain her side of things, claiming she had been manipulated by Vanessa just like everyone else. She was facing potential charges as an accessory and wanted to cut some kind of deal. I forwarded her message to Trevor without responding. Let her explain everything to the DA's office. 2 weeks later, both Kieran and Vanessa took plea deals rather than go to trial. Kieran got 18 months in minimum security. Vanessa got 8 months, plus probation and restitution payments, to both David and me. Not huge amounts, but enough to cover our legal costs and send a message. The restitution payment was almost exactly $5,000. The same amount as the bonus I had gotten the night she told me not to touch her. Final update. It has been 6 months since everything concluded, and I figure I owe you all a final update since so many people followed this story and offered support along the way. The legal stuff wrapped up smoother than expected. Kieran said when he got released. Word is, he is working construction now, and his ex-wife Elena got full custody plus child support. She sends me a Christmas card every year, which is weird but nice. Vanessa completed her sentence in county jail and moved back in with her parents in Colorado Springs. She is working retail now, probably making about $12 an hour, and the restitution payments come out of her check automatically, so I don't have to deal with her directly. Tara flipped on both of them in exchange for probation and community service. Turns out she had been planning to run the same scheme herself with a married guy from her gym, but decided to cooperate once she saw how badly things went. For her partners, work has been great. My boss heard about the situation through office gossip and was actually impressed with how I handled it. Said it showed good judgment and problem-solving skills. I got promoted to senior engineer last month with a $15K bump in salary. The apartment is perfect. 1 bedroom, downtown Denver, walking distance to good restaurants and bars. I have got it set up exactly how I want it. No compromise necessary. The guys from work come over for fights and playoff games. My brother visits from Phoenix whenever he is in town for business. I started dating again a few months ago. Nothing serious yet. Just enjoying meeting people who aren't plotting to destroy my life. It is amazing how different it feels when someone actually wants to spend time with you instead of just tolerating your presence while planning their exit strategy. Elena and I grab coffee occasionally when she is in town for work. Strictly platonic. But it is nice talking to someone who understands what it is like to have your life turned upside down by people you trusted. She is doing well, kids are healthy, and she is building a successful real estate business. David reached out after the sentencing to thank me for finally getting justice for both of us. He is remarried now. Wife seems great from what I can tell through social media. Said it took him 3 years to trust someone again, but seeing Vanessa face consequences helped him move on. A few people have asked about whether I feel bad for Vanessa or if I think the punishment was too harsh. Honestly, no. She made calculated decisions to hurt multiple people for money. She wasn't confused or lonely. She was running a con game with professional criminals. The consequences fit the choices. My only regret is not documenting things sooner. If I had installed that tracking software 6 months earlier, I could have saved myself and Elena a lot of pain. But you live and learn. The biggest lesson I took from all this is that self-respect isn't about what you tolerate. It is about what you are willing to do when your boundaries get crossed. Vanessa thought self-respect meant rejecting unwanted attention. I showed her it means refusing to accept unacceptable behavior. Life is good now. Simple, honest, drama-free. I have got my friends, my work, my freedom, and my self-respect intact. Sometimes the best thing you can do for a marriage is end it before it destroys you.